These are essentially integrated business cities, two of them today, one in Chennai and one in Jaipur, encompassing about 4,500 acres between them. The whole premise is, how do you create satellites to existing cities which can provide livelihood, living, and life in one integrated environment? In one sense, therefore, it's a microcosm of any city or any what any city should be. But over time, industries tended to move out because it was costlier to operate within a city, land was not available. And as industries moved out, people continue to live in the cities. So, what we've seen in many of our cities today, and maybe Bombay is the reverse, people travel into the city coming from outside. But in most other cities, you have people traveling out extensively to workplaces. That's caused a lot of sprawl, that's caused a lot of pressure on transportation networks, that's caused commute and therefore CO2 consumption going up. The whole approach has been, how can you integrate everything into one location where you, yes, have jobs created, you have people living there, you have all of the social support facilities that they need to be able to live in that place, and create one integrated environment that is scalable, sustainable, and well planned right from the beginning. And I'm not saying it's been a cakewalk. It's been a lot of learnings over the last 15 years for us in the World City space. What I'd like to focus this session on is really what we've tried to do around environmental sustainability. And I think that starts first with the community. In the context of greenfield projects, particularly, it goes back to the neighborhood around you, the land that you are aggregating to put up a large development. What is the impact on that community and how do you involve them in that process? So you start with community and you often end with community again. But I'll come back to the end. The first part, therefore, was about how did we look at land use? How did we look at land aggregation? And I think concepts like land pooling, which are today being spoken about, were put to use in the Mahindra World City Jaipur about 7 years back, where we actually involved the local community in the development by working out a formula of land transfer as opposed to it just being you get a few lakh of rupees and you exit the development. If somebody had 4 acres of land, they got 1 acre of developed land in return and became remained in the village but became part of a larger development where they could actually see appreciation along with development and continue to be part of the ecosystem. 90% of the people in Jaipur opted for the land pooling formula as opposed to taking money and leaving the location. Again, in terms of selection, how do you ensure that you don't pick up arable land, you don't pick up land which is under cultivation? Industry needs land for development, but how do you look at the context of using what is Banjar land there and converting it into economic activity? So that's one approach. But we also integrated village communities into the development by, from the very early days, working on skill development so that they could get integrated into job creation that happens in the local environment. The second aspect around the whole environmental approach to smart cities was about how do we reduce energy consumption and how do we reduce water consumption. And the third was around how do we look at the solid waste that will get generated. And finally, how do we look at transportation planning. What we've done in specifically again in Jaipur around water consumption, and you know Rajasthan is a state where there is stress around water availability. There are always concerns around water consumption. So while in Chennai, we had a system by which we recycle all of the sewerage of the city generated within the Mahindra World City, treat it and use it for landscaping purposes, irrigation purposes, and flushing purposes. So therefore, we have no fresh water being used for any of these purposes. In Jaipur, we decided to go a step further. We will be taking the city's sewerage water to Mahindra World City Jaipur, which is about 12 kilometers away, and using that also as a source of grey water. So we're actually running three pipelines in Mahindra World City, Jaipur. One is for fresh water, the other is for grey water, which is generated within the community, and the third is for the city's grey water, which will come in, get demineralized and treated, and get supplied to industry for them to use for industrial consumption. By this approach, what we've ensured is that when fully developed, the city will consume 40% less fresh water than what would have been the baseline if we had gone about business as usual. So I think these are some of the approaches we've tried to take around looking at how can we be more smart in the way we look at environmental sustainability when we develop our projects. In the area of energy, it's still early days. We've tried to do some efforts around renewable energy. We do have an off-grid small solar installation in Chennai, But in Jaipur, we are looking at again how can we push that agenda further and actually participate in the city's renewable energy footprint so that the world city development can not just be zero carbon, but actually move to a carbon positive development, which is what we partnered with the Clinton Climate Initiative on. And you must have read recently that we moved to a stage 2 level, which is we have a climate roadmap oriented towards being carbon positive. The third area that I wanted to speak about was transportation. And there, if you look at it, I think for us, it's been more about being plan ready as opposed to be bringing in mass transport solutions ourselves. It's difficult for one development of a few thousand acres to be mass transport solved. But what we have done is built roads where the center median is wide enough that when the metro extends in the city to phase 2 and then to phase 3, it'll be very easy to actually integrate the metro into the Mahindra World City without having to re-go back to the drawing board and start afresh in terms of where do we fit in the space for the metro. So the roads have been already geared to bring in mass transport solutions. But the other approaches around transport, therefore, are around how do you create a walkable community when you have the residential township? How do you provide internal shuttle services so that people use mass transport within the community? And in the context of Chennai, the site was well located. We actually have a railway station on site. But I remember we went back to the central government almost 10 years back and told them we'd like to renovate the station from scratch. It's in a dilapidated condition. We'd like to bring in lighting, we want to bring in good toilets, we want to bring in safety so that we can encourage people to use the train as opposed to using the road to transport. Today, about 40% of the people who work there opt for the train as opposed to using bus transport solutions or driving their own cars. So, these again are efforts around ensuring that you address transport solutions at the beginning of the planning cycle when you work on greenfield developments. So, I think in our experience, we found that through interventions which are around the community, around energy, around water, around transportation, around waste management. You can create more resilient cities. You can create greenfield developments which are thoughtful, which are well planned. And I'm sure there are a lot of learnings that we can use to apply even in our brownfield developments, where definitely the challenges are larger because it's easy when you have a clean slate, an empty sheet, to work with perfect plans, to try to do what you think is required for the community, to engage the community with you and see what is needed at every stage and keep iterating. It is that much more tougher when we work with brownfield developments. But I think there are a lot of learnings that the speakers have shared right through this morning. And I'm sure we will be able to put those to good use to address the issues of creating both brownfield and greenfield smart cities. Thank you.
Fantastic. Now we have heard a keynote from Dr. Shyama Solekar. He encompassed almost all the aspects required, which are preventive solutions, control solutions, remediation solutions. Sensing smartness in the people also is, inculcating smartness is also a requirement. Venkat talked about his own experiences, and governance is a major issue that he talked about. Prasad gave us a slide which we have to ponder upon, because we need to go to the basics. What exactly, what action plan, how do you do it? Because what you talk and what you bring in is one thing which we have to see from the technological interventions, the thinking process, and the governance, willingness, many things are there. And Anita brought out her own experiences where they are trying to do it at a small level, though it is. But it is necessary that gated communities must have a zero emission system, must have no impact on the external environment. And if they can manage within the gated community, then why not the smart city can manage? These are a few issues that we have to see from all the angles. Now I request the audience, because I know that equal, almost capable people are sitting in the audience who match the panel here. But this is an issue which is environment. Everybody is very, very keen to know about, because finally the safety of a person is important. His health is important. Fresh air is required. Fresh water is required. Facilities are required. And environmental resources are ultimately the unlimiting resources. They are not unlimiting. They are limiting resources. How do you manage them? So I'll leave the panel now open for any questions that you have, because we still have some time, with the permission of the organizers if they have. Otherwise, if it is going to be a tough one, then I'll close the session. And what is the one or two questions? Anybody who really has a smart question on the smart city can come through. He raised the hand first, so let it go to him, and then you, and that's all. No more hands. You want to pick it up? Okay, the third one. I have three questions only. No more now. Yeah, please.
Good morning, sir.
Keep
I
your
have-
question straight.
Yes, I've been working the supply chain management. Now is a question to Mr. Venturi that we have been talking about making the what do you call it the cold storages,
Speak in the mic. Huh?
cold storages, shifting the foods, frozen fruits and other foods to different strata of the people. Now in the smart city, we have the different housing. One is for the governance people, other one is for IT people, third one is for the other type of the executives, and last one is a low-cost housing, but not the dwellers or slum dwellers. How is the idea of developing the movable chains
Supply
of
chain.
the what do you call it, chillers, going from fast food to the last the perishable food, but not the what do you call it the exist what do you call it that what is the life completion food, the last stage of the what do you call it food.
Please limit the question lesser than the answer. that
Anna
it
is okay, sir. How
Did you get the question?
No, I did not
Supply
get.
chain,
Sorry,
that's
I'm
all.
sorry
So
about it.
supply
But
chain.
is the supply chain management in
Supply
the
chain
smart
management.
city, how the chain of the cold storage can move from the giving the food from fresh food to the last place to the low cost housing people,
Right.
which require the last stage of the food rather
The
exactly.
food transportation you talked about, let's talk on that.
yeah, so I think there are many ways of doing it, and we've tried some experiments of actually taking food straight to your house, of reconverting some of the vehicles into kind of a movable retail outlet.
Yes.
So there are many ways of doing it, and we can take this offline, for the paucity of time. But there are many ways of doing this whole logistic supply chain from farm to what you call as fork or farm to table, where not only storage but also delivery can be done pretty effectively. So we can spend a few minutes at the end of this session.
So there is a model available. Yeah.
Thank you so
Next one. You were second. Yes. Just
My
straight
question
one line
is-
question.
My
One line
question is for Dr. Vate and Dr. Asolekar. See, I'm working on this Mumbai mega project. Within it, we planning to convert the Mahim Bay into an artificial coral reef. Today, there's cyanide in the water, and we worked on various issues like how to make sure that the whole thing is we've got a proper budget for it, and how to get in new sand from somewhere. But there's this Methi River. We've also got a plan for the Methi River. But how do you make these things happen actually from a governance standpoint? Because in Mumbai, to get one small bridge culvert built somewhere, it takes 5 years. This kind of project. See, why shouldn't people be able to dive and have swim in the Mahim Bay? We
Okay.
got it within the city. We can make an artificial coral reef by putting in this.
We got your point.
Bio-rock
I'll pass it
technology.
on to Sham, and then I'll take a.
It's a good point. It is larger question. It is beyond smart city. It is a governance question that we have to discuss separately. I don't think this we can handle in 30 seconds.
In
Can I
5
take the
seconds, I'll
last
say
question?
That there is a governance is one word you used, and then management is a big issue in this country. If technologies are available, bring in proper management, everything is possible. Right. Next question.
First of all, my compliments to Anita for ensuring that the people stay there. That's a great thing you're doing, that they're not moving out from wherever they are staying with your methodology. My question is very simple. For getting all these things down, green building, what is the cost per square foot? And is it affordable? That is my question.
Early years when we started out, it was about 2 to 3% costlier to deliver a green building as opposed to a conventional building. Today, that cost is less than 0.5%. So I don't
Great.
think
Yeah.
cost is an issue. It is a mindset.
I think people need to be educated very strongly on this, because there is a general fear in the construction industry that we have to spend a hell of a lot of money to become green. So I think this needs a lot of propagation. Thank you.
Get your design stage right, because a lot of solutions are out there. If you know your wind directions, your sunlight direction, the shading patterns, and then design your building as per that, you've already addressed half the issues. You don't need to then impose a lot more of other material to actually be green in terms of the building. So it's less than 0.5% today.
Thank you.
Well, I'll conclude now. As I know that Nisargo Rakshiti Rakshata, you protect the environment and environment protects you. Have a respect for the nature. And it's good that we are bringing environment as a parameter into the entire development process. But I would say that it will be a key parameter. It will be a lifeline of any smart cities. Stay with the environment. It will protect you. Thank you very much. Thanks all the panel.
Well, just a minute. It was a great session, a great learning, and a very thought provoking session. I would like to take this opportunity to thank Dr. Vate for initiating this session. The aspects of economy, environment, and society, the triangle that is to be considered when we think of sustainability, was well put forth and explained. The significance of maintaining balance in the ecosystem, the management of the habitat, and above all, the planning that is essential was a very good start for this session on sustainability. I would like to thank our keynote address speaker, Dr. Shyam Asolekar, for a very elaborate presentation covering multiple dimensions of how one can maintain sustainability, the correlates of smartness, the strategies that are essential to be adopted, the track record of innovations, the policies for science and technology for development, the tools for preventive environment management, and the case studies presented brought forth very well the entire aspect of sustainability. I thank Sri Velluri for his significant, he brought forth very well the usage of multiple technologies to address so many of